The year is 1916 and Reinhold Heidecke is sitting in the trenches during World War I. And he's rethinking the idea to help the war photographers stay safe while they take pictures of the war from the trenches. He's thinking of an idea to create a camera that will be like a periscope. You'll sit inside a trench and put a camera outside and you will be able to take picture with a long remote release cable. It will be nearly 13 years before his idea is real. Reinhold Heidecke eventually partners up with Paul Franke to create a company that most of us will know as Franke and Heidecke, later Rollei. They produced a series of stereo cameras before 1929. Then, that year, 1929, they come up with a brand new, totally different camera. Enter Rolleiflex. Rolleiflex Original of 1929. Revolutionized twin lens reflex camera. TLR stands for twin lens reflex camera, and it's not a new invention. Reinhold Heidecke and Paul Franke didn't invent the kind of camera. They revolutionized the camera. Twin lens reflexes were made in 1800s already. They were huge, bulky cameras. They took plates. Reason behind the TLR was the fact that the photographer would have constant view of the photographed object while inserting the plate, while exposing the plate. The view on his ground glass would always remain. The London stereoscopic Carlton was the first off-the-shelf twin lens reflex camera. It was produced in 1885. But it was still a bulky piece of equipment. What the Franke and Heidecke company did was they took an existing idea for a twin lens reflex camera and they shrunk it down to accept a roll film. 1/17 was the original roll film used in the original model. Let's take a closer look at it. So this is Rolleiflex Original, or as the manufacturer called it, Rolleiflex K1 Model 612. This particular camera was introduced in 1929 and it was part of original 4 models, not including the 10 prototypes the company designed in 1928. They were called Rolleiflex K1 610. This particular one is rather rare since there were only 820 pieces made. This one came to me from an online auction and it's in rather distressed condition. However, it is fully operational and at the end of the video you'll be able to see some results from it. Let's get into details. This camera features Zeiss Tessar lens. It's 4-element lens. So from now on, all the Rolleiflexes will have Tessar or better lenses. Rollei cords were equipped with Zeiss 3-element lenses. Tessar is a 4-element lens. This one is 75mm f3.8
Carl Zeiss Jena. The taking lens is Hydroscope and Astigmat 3.1, 75mm. When I got this camera, the top lens was out of whack. The focusing was impossible to achieve without some work. So what I did, I opened it up. I opened the viewing or the viewing part of the camera, and I noticed that the mirror inside is not the original mirror. It's been replaced, and it's thicker than the original. And what that caused is for the lens to be out of adjustment. It would project an image that would not be focused. So what I did, I loosened the adjustment screw on the top lens and I brought it out so that it matches at infinity sharpness of the taking lens. I've had a few Rolleiflexes before, and I own several Rollei cords. What's interesting about the original is that the first model, 611, 612, 610, they didn't come with hinged back. 611 model is distinguished between 612 by different lens. This one features 3.8 aperture, while the 611 featured f4.5. The back is not hinged, as I mentioned, so all you do is just simply remove it like that. Well, this might pose few issues, and it did with my first time shooting. I mounted it to the tripod, and I grabbed the camera, I tried to turn it slightly with my tripod lock release. What happened is that the bottom lock on the camera did not hold very well, and that caused the back to slightly open and exposed or spilled some light on my second frame. Alright, let's talk about how to use this camera. I find it really, really interesting that Germans in 1929 thought of a very intricate opening mechanism for the hood, while Yashica in 1950s, 60s, and 70s was just putting extra knurled or notches or extra tabs on the back of the hood so you have some traction for your finger to lift the hood up. Germans or Franken-Heidecke designed a rather complex mechanism to open a hood. It consists of few levers, a tab to push down, and a pair of hooks that hook onto the latch, onto the hood. So all you do is press down on this tab here, and the hood opens up. You gotta understand, this one is nearly 80 some years old, so it has its quirks. I didn't have it completely cleaned, lubricated, and adjusted because I don't see point in spending whatever that might cost me, $180, $190. I just made sure that the lenses are in register and that it's going to take some decent sharp photos. So after it's opened up, you look inside and you notice something interesting. Unlike any other camera I've seen, TLRs, this one has a bubble. It's a level bubble, so it gives you an idea when your camera is leveled. It works quite well, although it's not really needed. The ground glass itself doesn't have any marks. Well, you can see me. It doesn't have any lines to align the camera. You have to rely on your eyesight and an included bubble. To select the aperture on this camera, you have the little pointer with tiny knob on it. and you just push it down or pull it up to get the needed aperture. For shutter speed, you simply turn the knurled dial until the selected shutter speed is aligned with the marking triangle. The shutter speed varies between 1/300 and 1 second. You also get T and B modes, or shutter speeds. They're not speeds, but in T, shutters opened for as long as you want it to. So you just trigger the shutter and it opens up and you can go. And when you want to close, you come back and push the lever again. It will close the shutter. In B, which is a bulb mode, for as long as you hold the shutter open, it stays open. When you release the lever, the shutter closes. Let's listen to the amazing music to my ears that is the shutter at 1 second on this beautiful Rolleiflex K1 Model 612 Original. Yes, you probably noticed that the shutter is a little slow, but it's not much slower than it should be at 1 second. When you advance the film, you align the number on the film with the horizontal line, and that will give you perfect spacing for your pictures. All these models, all these originals, they used 1/17 film. There were some that were modified to use 620 and later 120 films. The modification was done by changing the advance knob and its mating part with the roller. I'll show you in a bit. And that roller would, that little tab that would mate with the spool would be narrower, it would be smaller. Whereas in different size film would be a different size. This one is accepting 620 spools, reels, and what I did, I simply took 120 film and I re-spooled it onto 620 roll. Viewing hood also features a magnifying glass, but unlike Yashica's and some other Rolleis, the magnifier would pop in from the inside. This one has a hatch. You just simply do this and you can look inside and see the magnified image for fine focusing. You have to understand the ground glass on this camera is a little dimmer than modern SLRs or TLRs, should I say, but it's working fine nevertheless. Another very interesting thing about the viewfinder on this original is that it also has a small mirror on the front part. I stick my fingers there, you can maybe see my reflection of my finger. That mirror is operated by a small lever on the side. You can see it move inside. And what this does, this turns the viewfinder into a sort of prism finder. You flip the mirror so that it's sitting at 45 degrees, and on this side here you have a little notch where the lever bit engages with, and that puts the mirror at 45, and you look through the magnifying glass and you can see the image reflected to your eye. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it works if you want to use eye level viewfinder instead of waist level viewfinder. There's no counter on this camera, and film advancement is done by turning this knob in the direction of the arrow, and then looking through the ruby window to see the number of the on the back of the film or paper backing. When Franke and Heidecke came out with this camera, it revolutionized the world of photography. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, the cameras before were huge, bulky cameras. This one is small in comparison. It's got much brighter viewfinder than its predecessors did. And you can load a roll of film and you can go out and take several shots without need for this elaborate equipment. Originally on 117 film, you could only take 6 shots. 120 film or 620, of course, allows you to take 12 shots. Focusing on this camera is done by turning this knurled knob here, and you can see the whole front plate, the lens assembly, moves out and then moves back in for infinity focusing. To close the hood, you simply make sure your mirror is disengaged, and you push one flap, then the second flap, you push the rear plate, and then you engage the top. Originally, this camera was put out on eBay for $280, and without even realizing that I'm buying a very rare camera, I offered the buyer less than half of what he was asking for, and I put a nice note with a offer that this is all I can do for them, and if they want to sell it to me, please do. If not, then I'll just move on and find something different. And they kindly agreed. A few days later, I got this Rolleiflex. But until I got it, and I looked it up online, I started doing some research on it, I didn't know it was one of only 820 pieces made. It also came with this rather rare lens cap. Just simply fit it here, and there you have it. This is a piece of history, ladies and gentlemen. This is not something that there are a lot of out there. On eBay alone, I only saw 3 or 4 originals for sale. This camera is in rather distressed condition, but it's still fully working. And I don't know if it had service since it was purchased new. I don't know if it was one owner or it had several owners, but it is still working and it is in decent condition. There are some rubs on the leatherette, and there are some scratches, paint loss, but I'm not a collector, I'm a user. This one, however, will only be used a few times, and it won't be my regular shooter because of its historical value and because I don't want to damage it any further. I'll be putting it in my bag and it will be sitting there with other Rollei product, other Rollei cameras until next time I want to use it. The latch mechanism on this camera is not the greatest in the world, but it works. If you, however, try to jiggle it too much and play with it, it will let go, causing the whole back to fall off. So you want to be careful when you use these cameras. They are very temperamental. They can get upset with you, and you have to deal with it. but this is what I love about them. None of the cameras I own is the same. Even if it's the same model, it's still different personality. Cameras can have different characters, and you take it out to shoot, and you don't know if it's not gonna get upset with you and the shutter's gonna fail, or the aperture is gonna stick, or viewfinder's not gonna open, or something else is gonna happen to it. When I went out to shoot with this one, I was rather pushy, and that's why the whole back opened up on me, causing issues with light leak. But it was my fault, it wasn't the camera's fault. It was because I was rushing things. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about the Rolleiflex K1 Model 612, or as a lot of people call it, Rolleiflex Original. If you learned something and you like these videos, subscribe. If you already did, thank you very much for that. Leave me thumbs up, leave me thumbs down. But if you do this, maybe write a comment or explanation what you didn't like. So ladies and gentlemen, until next time, make sure you keep shooting film. Keep the film and these classic beauties alive. Don't let them become shelf queens. Take them out and use them. If it's once a year even, take them out and use them.
Tiptoe from your pillow to the shadow of a willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me. Knee deep in flowers we'll stray, we'll keep those showers away, and if I kiss you in the garden, in the moonlight, will you pardon me? Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.